What's happening, everybody? This is Gayuka Amusa, also known as Coach G, and I'd like to welcome you to this week's episode of The Friday Fix. Now, in today's episode, we're going to talk about the art of letting go, because all of us, at some point in time, we all experience the end of a meaningful relationship, and it can just be terrible. It can be a really difficult process to work through, and the art of letting go is something that will enable you to ensure that you have a strong personal foundation when you move into your next relationship or whatever comes next for you after the end of this relationship. You know, I think back about 6 years ago and I experienced the end of a really important, meaningful relationship. It's when my wife of 9 years and I decided to end our relationship and to really change how our family was structured. Um, it was incredibly difficult. It was just a really tough thing to go through. And what I'll tell you what, do you remember that game show called Pressure Luck? It was the game show where, the contestants had this big red button right in front of them. And there was this, square of lights moving around the board and it would land on different prizes. But mixed in with all the prizes were these whammies and they would kind of randomly appear. And so the contestant would have to hit the button, and when they hit the button, if they landed on a whammy, it would take everything from them. That's kind of like this gal right here. That's exactly how I felt. I felt exactly like that. I felt like life had given me a personal whammy, because not only was my marriage coming to an end, not only were we breaking our family apart, not only was my daughter's heart broken, not only was I experiencing all that, but just a month and a half before the end of my marriage, before the divorce was finalized, I also lost my job. So life had just given me this enormous whammy, and I didn't know how I was going to get through that. Now, looking back on it all, I can clearly see that what I didn't know at the time was that I had some understanding of the art of letting go. I didn't really get it consciously, but when I look back at what happened, I knew something about it. And unfortunately for me, the version of it that I put into play was the slow motion, bumbling idiot version. So for everyone listening today, we're going to talk about the key components of the art of letting go so that you don't have to bumble through it like I did so many years ago. The ending of relationships is really kind of a common part of the human experience. Relationships come to an end. There's a statistic that says that the average adult will experience as many as 8 or 9 long-term meaningful relationships in their lifetime. I mean, 8 or 9, that's a lot. That's a huge number. But even beyond those romantic relationships, there are so many other kinds of important relationships that may come to an end in our lifetime. Sometimes we deal with the end of really long-term, meaningful friendships. Sometimes we get estranged from our loved ones, from our family members. And sometimes we have to deal with the death of someone that we really love. And in all of these situations, having some mastery and real understanding about the art of letting go is really going to serve us. So the truth is, we're going to have lots of opportunities throughout our lifetime to put this art into play. Now, when we talk about the art of letting go, we're really ultimately talking about a choice between wallow and allow. A choice between, do I hold on to what's in the past? Do I hold on to what has been, what didn't work, what I'm still kind of torn to pieces about? Or do I allow, something new? Do I allow the promise of something different coming into my life? Now, even though we all understand that letting go boils down to this basic choice, that doesn't necessarily equip us to make that choice. So in this week's fix, we're going to look at the 3 key components to the art of letting go. Now, the first is to take time. And you may have heard this before. You may have heard someone, many different people talk about how much time someone should take after the end of a meaningful relationship to really heal and get better. And I'm not here to tell you exactly how much that should be. I think that really depends on the person. People need to determine for themselves how much time is necessary. But what I do want to communicate is that the importance of taking time, you know, it comes on two fronts. First, you get the permission to feel what you feel. You really give yourself the permission to feel what you feel. That's the first part of it. But the second part is that you do that, feeling what you feel, experiencing all those range of emotions, some of them logical and illogical, just all kinds of different things. You feel all of those things without the pressure of added action, without the pressure of having to act on any of those things. And that gives you a certain safe space to operate in as you work through the different feelings that you're feeling because of the end of this relationship. When you start acting on some of those feelings, you can really start to complicate things at a time when you may just not be ready for those new complications. So it's really important to take the time so that you can have that safe space of non-action associated with working through all the feelings that you're experiencing. Now, the second part of this week's fix is to accept truth. We have to first accept the truth that we can't change what's happened. We've experienced a lot of things, and this relationship ultimately came to an end, and we can't change any of that. One of the things that you might be experiencing as you go through the end of a relationship is kind of reimagineering some of the different things some of the different things that happened. If only she hadn't said that, or if only I had done this differently, maybe things would have been different. That's a pit that you can fall into, and it's a hard way to climb out of, because you're always second guessing and regretting and just not accepting what really is. So accept the truth that you can't change what happened, but also what I want you to do is to accept that your memory, your thoughts, the stories you're telling yourself about what happened might not actually be true. There may be some embellishment. There may be some things that you just forgot about. There may be some new things you're interjecting. There may be some holes that you're having to fill in because you don't know exactly what your partner was thinking, your previous partner was thinking in those moments, or you don't know what their motives were. So you may find yourself crafting stories and filling in the blank to ultimately complete the narrative in your own head, but that may not actually represent truth. So accept the truth of what you're experiencing. That is such a key component to letting go. Now, the third part of the art of letting go, which I think is really the most critical piece, is to embrace crisis. There's this quote from John F. Kennedy that says, "When written in Chinese, the word crisis is composed of two characters. One represents danger and the other represents opportunity." Think about that, the juxtaposition of danger and opportunity. Because ultimately crisis leads to change. And if you think about just throughout human history, there's so many examples of personal and societal innovations that are the direct result of crisis. Imagine a person dealing with heart disease and all of a sudden making the decision to change how they eat, to change their exercise patterns, and to really transform their health so that this disease is no longer part of their experience. That transformation is the direct result of them confronting and embracing the crisis that they're being presented with. You can think about different cities around the world where earthquakes are a part of the reality, and you think about the innovations associated with, earthquake-resistant buildings and different things like that. That's all the result of crisis, responding to that crisis and innovating in a way that leads to change, that leads to something better existing. And ultimately, for you, crisis is a pathway to self-awareness. It is a pathway to improving and strengthening and changing yourself in response to the situation that you're being presented with. So I want you to embrace the crisis and see this phase as an opportunity for you to better understand yourself and to better move forward in who you are in the next relationship. So, to review, the three important components of the art of letting go are to take time, to accept the truth, and to embrace crisis. Thank you so much for watching this week's episode. Until next time, this is Coach G reminding you to free your mind so your life will follow. Take care of each other, all right?